Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Right Direction Show where we talk issues in the Nigerian community at home and in diaspora. I've got special guests with me today, lovely people from the diaspora community. To my left, I have Eniye Olorogun. Eniye, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Great, great. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Good. Over there, I have Mr. Emmanuel Ikifa. Emmanuel, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And we have our normal co-host, Josephine. Josephine, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great, great. Happy New Year to all of you.
Happy New Year
Happy
to
New
all
Year,
of you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Same to
thank
you.
you. And we're going to delve straight in. We have so much going on. We want to start with family, DNA.
Mm.
Recently in Nigeria, when people give birth, I don't know if you've been seeing it on social media, you see some men come out, in most cases now, say, DNA is done, baby is mine. I think this is a new development, quite unusual. And I want to see from my panelists how we got here. Is it that I'm thinking myself? Is it uh, the man is impotent, so the woman had to do something to get a child? Are we casualizing promiscuity? Some women come from good homes, raised by both parents. You put everything into them, or are we literally accepting prostitution as a way of life? And when the baby comes, we'll find out after that. I want to start with Enie, who is just sitting right next to me. Enie, let me have your take on this. You think DNA is normal?
I think there's nothing wrong with it. For me, if you're going to do genotype tests, autism tests, all these other tests that you do for children, I think there's nothing wrong with doing DNA because DNA is not only to rule out the paternity, but it's also to find other things that might be wrong with you. I know that the reason why they're doing it is because they might think something went wrong.
This is the main reason.
But I don't think anything, to me, we're simplifying it down to just cheating. There are so many things that are good with DNA testing.
Okay.
So people are saying, oh, my wife might have done that. Yeah, but a lot of times people feel away because, they say people that blame people usually are the ones that cheat themselves.
Oh well, that's one point. That's one point. But these days it seems this is a new development. And if you even say it like that, somebody said to me, they use it to check the woman's promiscuity. What
Yeah.
about the man, Mr. Manuel? Is this when you were growing up in Nigeria? Was DNA testing there, like Enie has said, to discover other things that might be wrong, or you think this is just directly to find out if the man is the father of the child?
In the past, it wasn't operational, so to speak,
Mm.
but these days, everybody's doing it because most people in the West, it's happening in Nigeria because we like to enjoy Western luxuries, and that's why they've started doing it in Nigeria. And they're talking about it because they want to know if the child is theirs, if the woman has been cheating,
Yeah.
and to make sure the child is theirs. In terms of health and science, sometimes you want to know if the child has a defect or, I mean,
Do you need DNA for that?
I don't think you need DNA. I'm just confusing myself for a second, but no, I think they usually test for future problems from the embryo
But, yeah.
when the child is still there to see. There are known markers
Yeah.
for stuff like Down syndrome and all that they can check. But the one that's going on now that you've just mentioned, I think it's to do with promiscuity
Security.
and
Yeah. Josephine,
paternity and
thank you. Thank you. Josephine, you think the men are getting a free pass? You think they put it all on women that you must do DNA to find out if the baby is mine?
I wouldn't I wouldn't say they're having a fair pass because I mean they cheat, they have children outside that the woman or the wife wouldn't know about. But coming back to the question about DNA, I think it's just because of the countless encounters in homes nowadays where, you see all of a sudden a man finds out that five children are not his, the three kids are not his. And I've heard stories, this whole thing has stemmed from, the church, where you find out that pastors slept with, someone else's wife, and then the children, they've done the DNA, is not for the man. So I've read stories and I've seen this happening. So I believe it's true there that I actually stem from this, men now having to say, I have to do DNA. And like my sister has said and my brother has said, they are quite right in the sense that DNA is not just for that. There are other things, that comes with it. But to your question, I believe you're coming from the
How did we get what?
yeah, exactly. Because back in the day, in my day, I don't think my dad ever asked the DNA,
DNA.
or, so it's just kind of like it's a new development that is happening.
Negative or positive?
Negative, of course.
Negative. You see,
It can't be positive. However, I will say this, and I think I mentioned it sometime last week during the podcast. It's sad that it has come to this for men to say, oh, you know, let me know, I need to know the DNA of my children, where there is nothing happening in the house, everything is fine, and all of a sudden you just want to know the DNA of the children. So I would say you will be prepared as well to give me something in return if those children turns out to be yours.
come over to you. I like what Josephine has just said. As a woman yourself, you haven't done anything. You have been faithful to your husband. You have been at home. Everything is normal. How much does taking DNA, requesting the DNA test from you, how much does it take away from you? Do you feel belittled?
Well, I don't have children yet, right?
Yeah.
But just from I hate to use the word common sense, but from a sense standpoint, like you said, if I've done nothing and you just woke up one day and done that, then to me it's like, so what do you really feel about me? Because why suddenly what if I've, like you said, if I've done nothing, there's no signs, nothing has come up. You just woke up and said because maybe my friend did it and maybe his own happened to be that way. So let me just do my own. Not only are you, it's very condescending in a sense, like you just everything we built you don't believe in.
Yeah.
And then for me it's like I always say this, even now I'm a single girl, but when I date, I don't check what anyone does. Everyone is an adult. What I do is I hope that you respect our situation enough to not embarrass me outside. So when you go out, I'm not checking what you're doing. As a man, I hope that you're not disrespecting me. But if you are, everyone is an adult. Everyone has the choice to make what they want to do. And if you choose that you want to do a DNA test, that's your choice. But then you have to understand the repercussions of what you have done to me.
What? I'll come to you to ask you exactly this repercussion, but let me bring Emmanuel in here. Emmanuel, all the men seem to be taking DNA tests in Nigeria, especially. Even if you're a man and you had trust in your wife, you haven't seen her do anything on tour to the pregnancy. Would you be under pressure from your friends, from your group that?
Personally, I wouldn't. If I was young in my marriage and all that, I wouldn't go that far because I think it's just head mentality with everybody hearing about it from Hollywood and blah blah, and trying to consume all those kind of things. They want to do what those people are doing. So I want to check the paternity of my children. Most of the time, like you said before, the men have not been faithful as well. I'm going to say it out there, and so they have to. They suspect everything that goes on, and back in days, if I go a little bit further, these things didn't really happen. When a child from our ancestral times, when a child comes to a family, it belongs to that family. There's nobody coming to say it's my child. That was it. Wouldn't nobody will hear that.
But it's different. Today it's different.
It's there. So that's why I went back. And back in the day as well, from stories we've heard, if a woman happens to go outside and knows that this baby might not be from my husband, they used to tell the husband or tell the family something has gone wrong.
In the local way. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. But now it's opened up a can of worms. Like Josephine, I want to come. Like for a parent, you have raised your child just because you have the female child. If somebody comes to you, you know your daughter, you know how you've raised your daughter, you have seen this marriage, your daughter has carried her path very well. And if they ask you for a DNA as a parent, if your daughter is pregnant and the man and his family are asking for a DNA, how do you feel?
I mean, it all depends on the reason as to why they're asking for the DNA.
There's only one reason here.
Okay.
They don't trust your daughter. The man doesn't have to see anything today. You could come back late. You could not pick up your phone.
If the marriage was not based on trust, then why did they get married in the first place?
Would you object to your daughter doing a DNA, or would you agree?
I would agree,
Mhm.
just to clear the air.
Yeah.
But the aftermath will not be good. Because you've just broken the trust, you've broken everything we've built over the
That's what I'm
years
saying.
by coming to say you want a DNA.
But then I see where you're going, and I see you're agreeing with her. But I you're quite conversant with what's happening in Nigeria. That the cases of men raising 4 or 5 children that don't belong to them is quite on the rise. You know, if you're getting married today, would you be offering, as part of giving your husband assurances, would you be offering that if I'm pregnant, I'll do DNA just because you see the conditions?
I'll use the word that he used. I would pray that my husband doesn't have herd mentality. I hope my husband has sense enough to, even if you're offended, that's not your life, because you can be best. You can even twins have different lives. So just because your friend did it doesn't mean you have to follow. So for me, if you want it, no problem. If that's what you feel you need.
Yeah.
But I would say this with my chest. One time someone told me that the people you love the most to, the people that you lie to or you hide things from, I would prefer if you had the suspicion, go and do it quietly. Don't break up my home, don't break up my trust, don't break up all these things just to prove that nothing happened. If you did it and something now come up, no problem. But you're doing it because you have a hunch about something in your spirit, and now you've caused problems in our home for no reason.
So you're saying he can take your
If
can
he
take the
feels it's his
baby.
child, if he wants to do something outside, because like you said, if there's been no inklings, no behavior, nothing, and you just because someone else said they did it, you want to cause problems in your home just because someone else did it. I'd rather you do it privately.
Yes.
Just to even if it's just to soothe your spirit, because I'm very big on something that's good. If you want to do something for yourself, do it for yourself.
Yeah.
But don't ruin everybody else for your own intuition.
But what would be the point? You if you went to do a DNA and you found out that the child is yours, would you tell your wife?
I think from what you said, I agree with that. If the man is suspicious of that child might not be mine, it's better for him to take samples and go and have the DNA done, and then come back and break the results or shut it. So he might find out that it's his and keep quiet. Find out it's not his and keep quiet, or find out that it's his and still say, "Well, I've done DNA. I found out these children are really mine, or these children, one is not mine, one is mine." But
But before I come to my last question, sorry, you were going to say something. Say.
No, I was actually just going to say also with this whole DNA thing.
Yeah.
I've heard of stories where you give birth in the hospital, your babies are swapped,
Switch, yeah.
are switched.
And
Yes.
I've heard that too as well.
Okay. Where the mom does not know. Now this DNA thing comes up, and then they find out that the child is not, and this woman is proving her innocence, saying, "I don't. This child is mine," but DNA says it's not. So
But
nobody has looked at that to trace it back to the hospital.
but if the child was swapped, the DNA would match either parents. It would match the
But if
woman.
you're
It would
doing a
match the
DNA
man.
if the man is doing a DNA, he's not. Most men are not checking for the woman; they're checking for themselves.
They're checking for
It's
themselves.
So
for
you
themselves,
won't
not
know
for the
if the
woman.
mom is not the
Yes.
child.
That's
Good,
right.
Good. So let me ask you where Emmanuel left off. If your husband went to do a DNA and he didn't tell you, or he told you, would it make any if he didn't tell you when he was going to do it? If he told you when he has done it, even if the children are his, would you feel a certain way?
Well, it will all depend on how he came to me to let me know that this is what I have done and the reason behind why he has done it. I would rather take that than him coming forcefully saying, "I need a DNA. I don't think this child, I want to find out," it's like, and then we're arguing and, saying all sorts
Sorts
to
of
each other.
things.
So quietly doing it and then coming to me talking about it, I would rather that than you just coming out and, like she rightfully said, destroying everything we built over the years.
that's right.
Finally, I want you to. I'm quite satisfied with the points you've put across. Very nice. But I want you to now talk to send an advice to the women who have been asked to do DNA, and send advice to the men who are asking the women to do. You understand?
All right.
Now, if you are going to let me go to Emmanuel. So, the
Okay.
men who are asking their wives to do DNA, what is your advice for them?
Yeah. Well, this is my advice and my opinion. You don't have to take it.
Yeah.
if you have to do a DNA test, it depends on your personality really and your relationship with your wife. You might decide, come home one day and just decide, listen, I want to know. Or you might have been suspecting for a while and then you take samples and have it done. But whatever you do, put the kids in mind. I mean, if you've lived with those kids for 5, 10, 15 years, do not destroy their lives, please, just because somebody cheated or you're being too I don't know what the word is. Just put the kids first, whatever you decide to do.
That's hard. Even if you find out, even if
I
the
was gonna
DNA
say,
result doesn't go,
Even if
doesn't
it's
go.
not your child,
Yeah,
but you've lived with that child, you are the only person that child
that's
knows.
right.
Those 3 children, they only know you.
Yeah.
They know you as their dad. They don't know anybody else. They've lived in that house 15 years of love, care, and everything. Then that's you have a relationship with your children. Then you have a relationship with your wife. Then you have a relationship with your family. So do not wreck the one with the children just because
Well,
you're
well said. Well,
yeah.
very well said. I like that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you the same question now, because he was talking to the men. You understand now? Now you to the women who they ask you to go and get a DNA. What would be the right approach from a woman being asked in order not to destroy her or destroy the family?
it's a tricky one because, like I said, it also everything comes from how things are presented. I always say there's a way to you can say anything to anyone if you say it correctly. If you feel that something in your mind just wants to scratch the itch and you just want to know, and you can say, it's no disrespect to you, just for my peace of mind, can we do this? I'm a big believer in, like I said, I can respect where you're coming. It's just like where she said it. It's if you talk to me about it in a way that, even if you can have a conversation and not agree, but you can understand. If you feel that's what you need to do for yourself, I don't have to like it, but if you're being respectful enough to me to ask me, no problem. Does it mean that I'm happy about it? No. But like we said, we understand where a lot of them are coming from a reason.
Yeah.
So in that case, sometimes suck it up and be quiet. But it's easier. It's easier if you've given a reason than when you haven't.
But I want to say to you, even now we talk, we're not talking in depth about the cases where the man has done the test and found out that the children are not his. You understand? Now, if I'm asking for DNA from a woman and the woman knows there's something to hide, can we apply the same things you're talking about here? That okay? Let me ask you, if bear in mind when you want to advise women that like you would do now, if you have something in your mind and the man has been 15 years, he's been raising the children, and one day he asks for DNA, what would you say? Would you still class him rude? Would you class him the way he asked?
Are you talking about
If the ones that they found out after DNA that because many cases have proven that the men are right to take the test. So it
I mean, well, the thing is, if let me use myself as an example. If I know that I have actually done something like that,
yeah,
that God forbid, all the kids I have for my husband are not for my husband,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden that question comes up.
yeah.
I'm not. Instead, I'm going to be like, oh, they found out. I'm not going to be angry. I will get on my knees and say, I'm so sorry. I know. That's what I will put up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there because they say clear conscience fears no accusation. So I'm not going to sit there and still prove like, why are you asking me? No, when I know deep down that I have done something abominable. No.
Just
So I
finally,
would give in. That's what I would say.
I like finally. Is it when the man asks for DNA that all the questions start to play up with the woman that possibly because I don't think she knows until he asks. Unless he's impotent, you understand, and she knows that he can't have children, then she's sure that the 3 children in the house don't belong to him. But if he is not impotent and she has done things and she's not sure, he's been training there, and then he come and ask for DNA. How do you do that? Because he never caught you doing anything, but you've done something around the period, and like he is. Would you in Nigeria now? I am 50-50 on this, but I think it's almost worth every man or most men going back to their wives, because they say even in Nigeria, even the wife you have at home is not really yours? So if it based on how you feel, some people say, okay, I'm tall. This guy is not tall. You know, I have white hair. This guy doesn't have. You understand? I have traits that this child does not have. And in Nigeria today, I want to know if this child is mine.
Well, this is why I said there's nothing wrong with DNA, right? Because I use I use my grandfather as example. My grandfather is very, very dark skinned, has blue eyes. Not one of his children has blue eyes. Not one. Not one. He has a lot of kids.
He needed to do
Not one
DNA.
has blue eyes. But they, like, my mom looks exactly like her dad. My uncle looks exactly like her dad. But no one has blue eyes. So there are some traits that are stronger than others, which is why I said there's nothing wrong with DNA. Because also, like, even like, look at let's this generation now that a lot of kids have autism on the spectrum. Sometimes autism traces back to like your granddad or to someone else. So, like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with DNA. As I said, I don't. I
But
think
it's
there's nothing-
it's the
the
purpose.
point of what it is, which is why I said I get why some people are asking for it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, if you didn't do anything, you shouldn't be worried.
Yeah.
Why are you worried?
But
To me, DNA is good because you can find out if you have Down syndrome in your family, if you have this in your family. If you don't crayfish waka and then you're worried, that's your own. But I want to say one last thing. A lot of times, this DNA thing is unfortunate only because we African people, we with men, we just accept that men do whatever they want. Like don't they say when you die, that's when you find out you have siblings. At your funeral, all your brothers will come to the
Oh, yeah,
funeral.
yeah.
But then this is another way to now rebuke women because you do it 10 times. She might do it one time and baby came out, and now you want to rubbish that woman forever. But when you do your own, we don't.
Yeah.
So that's why I said that it is the intent behind the DNA
Yeah.
because it's just another way of rebuking and chastising women. You shouldn't have cheated. Don't get me wrong. If you cheated and you did something, carry your cross. But
But like you've made a very good point because this is also very common that in many Nigerian funerals,
a culture.
even the first son is no longer the first son. Somebody come out from somewhere. So looking at the camera, I think it's a new development that just doesn't sit well.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
It-
There are a lot of things
That there's a lot of variables around
Yes,
it, that,
yes,
and the
yes.
men are getting away with everything.
with
When
everything.
it
And
comes to
then, like
DNA,
Sherafini said, the woman does it once and it's like
you understand? Yeah.
abomination.
And in addition to that, it's going to evolve, because this is just the beginning.
Mhm.
Because it's going to get to a stage where the man will say, I want a DNA. The woman will say, all right, let's have a DNA. And then the child comes and it's not the man's, and the man says, yeah, it's not yours. Big deal.
But what about but what about even big deal? But what about
Yeah.
if a child
It's
can
going to evolve.
also
It's going to come to that
Yeah,
stage.
yeah.
Because this is what this
Yes,
these
you are
things
very
happen. The
correct.
women become brave now and
Yes,
say, okay.
yes, yes.
Or if they have the affair, for example,
Yeah.
and then they get pregnant and they're not sure. 2 years down the line, they'll tell the man, you know what, this baby, I think I had something
Yeah.
while
it's
this
true.
was, she will come out
It
and
will
say,
come out.
yeah, because the more things it will evolve, women are getting more successful. She might not be depending too much on the man. It
Yes.
might be 50-50, it might be 70-30, but
Yeah.
still she has prospects. She will say, that baby is not yours.
right.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'm going to leave you. She's telling him, I'm leaving you, I'm taking the kids.
it's possible.
Things are going to turn out because
Yes.
when we start behaving the way, as
Honestly.
Africans start doing what the Western people do, they've reached that stage where,
Yes,
where the
they
woman
have.
comes out and says, it's not yours.
Yes.
What do you want to do?
What do you
about
want to do
it?
about
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And I always make a joke that in Nigeria, everything that the West does, when we start, we now overdo.
Plus, we
that's
didn't
why-
even get the basis of why they were doing it in the first place. I was just going to ask one question based on what you said just now. That how did you put that just now? That if what did he say just now? He said if the woman gets, she'll go and meet the man and say, I can think like, what if you do your child is grown up and they find out that you do a DNA to check if they're your child, and then they find out that they're actually your child. They could hold that against you.
It's the trust. You're just breaking the trust.
You understand? The family, the family unit is shaking.
shaking,
And the child can, children can rob you any day. That, oh, Dad, why are you talking to me? You went to find out if I was your child in the first place. So I'm glad we're discussing this so much, and thank you so much for your contributions here. If you're going to do DNA test, have a more robust conversation around it and the effects it will have on the woman, on the children, and the family,
And yourself.
and yourself too, requesting the
Yeah, yourself, because you might not be ready
Yeah.
to handle the truth.
What you've
That's
asked
right.
for.
Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
It might finish you.
But
So let's not start what we
We
can't
can't
finish.
finish.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year. I guess we're back here today.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
It's a big event. It's a big event. It's a big event.